The tulips are one of the most beloved flowers in the world. They're a symbol of spring and simplicity.
There's quite a nice tulip variety this year, down here by our cabin garden and up in the tile garden, so a lot of really great varieties.
But behind its loyalties lies a story of adventure, obsession, and global trade.
I think perhaps my favorite guys are the tulips when they're in tight bud. But this afternoon, when the sun comes out, these will flap open to create a completely different look. But the petals of these, when they're all open, will almost obscure this foliage to give a completely different effect, almost as if they are water lilies floating above a sea of violets.
Its journey set about not in the gardens of Europe, but in the harsh climate of Central Asia. For centuries, they were just another mountain flower until humans took notice.
So the tulips were seen by travelers on the Silk Roads, and surely that was what intrigued them, the bright colors, the different forms, the textures. And they became collected, they became gathered, they became traded around, and the Ottomans in the Ottoman Empire were the first to really capitalize on the tulip.
From the 10th to 16th century, Persians and Turks started cultivating the tulip as a symbol of power and paradise in the Ottoman Empire. In the late 1500s, a few bulbs boarded a ship and made their way to Europe.
Royal palaces, the courtyard gardens, the walled gardens were filled with thousands of tulips. And we know that the Ottomans were also hybridizing tulips late into the Ottoman Empire with hundreds of varieties that were named, given names and cataloged, which was then discovered by the Dutch.
In the late 1500s, a few bulbs made their way to Europe. Destination? You guessed it, the Netherlands.
Boesbeck, who was an ambassador to Emperor Ferdinand in the court of Suleiman the Magnificent in the Ottoman Empire, first saw these tulips not only in the Ottoman Empire courtyards, but also in his travels throughout what we today would call Turkey. And he sent bulbs of these to a man named Carolus Clusius, who at the time knew of tulips but hadn't grown them and was so fascinated by the variation of the species, but also noticed something unique occurring among these flowers, which was the flamed or streaked patterns of the petals that drew so much attention. We can attribute most of the rise of Tulip Mania to Clusius bringing these tulips into the Netherlands from Boesbeck, who brought them from the Ottoman Empire.
At the height of the frenzy in 1637, a single bulb could cost more than a house, even a flat in London. Wow! People from all walks of life started investing, hoping to take the bulb to the bank.
So the Tulip Mania, the first speculative commodity. People were seeing these tulips with these outrageously colored flowers, flamed, streaked, beautiful flowers, each one unique. Some of the highest priced bulbs would fetch fortunes of up to 5, 6, 7,000 guilders. The currency exchange with today's rate would be in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $400,000 for one single bulb. At the time, that was the wage of an unskilled laborer, 18 years of their salary for one bulb.
But as with all economic bubbles, it burst. Prices crashed and fortunes were lost. But the Dutch love for the flower endured.
So the bubble burst, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing for the Netherlands because they had already at that point figured out how to grow the bulbs and to produce the bulbs. And their climate, their soil, which is predominantly sand, reclaimed seafloor, the tulip grew exceptionally well. And before long, they had mastered the art of commercial production. Tulips today are one of the most popular spring flowering bulbs for obvious reasons. Every color conceivable except true blue, which perhaps someday we'll get there.
As we're going through trials right now, like everything looks so gorgeous, so we have to be really picky. We've learned to kind of like move towards like the colors. I think the double blooms are more popular, or something that just has a very interesting statement like wow out there.
Tulips now come in over 3,000 varieties. They've traveled across continents, survived empires, caused economic chaos, and have become a horticultural treasure in multiple countries. And of course, right here in little old Mansfield, Missouri. Remember, the next time you see a tulip bloom, you're not looking at a faithful flower, you're looking at a piece of history.